there everybody, this is Brewha236 bringing you another video tutorial for The Sims 4 Studio. This time we're actually going to be doing a new mesh. So go ahead and enter your creator name, leave both of the checkboxes unchecked. We're just going to hit create 3D mesh. Alright, and we're going to choose the female, adult, accessory. This first earring right here, you see how it says YFACC earring, ear diamond, diamond solid aqua. That's the one we're going to choose right there, the very first one. And let me navigate to my tutorial. I'm going to create a new package. Mesh tutorial package and save. Let it load. Now this is the earring that we're going to be modifying. We're going to be making it something else. Okay, first thing, we're just going to double check. We're on LOD0 up here at the top in this little drop down. All we're going to do is hit export 3D mesh. This is going to pop up. It's going to be creating a Blender blend file. I usually just name it the same thing as my package file. Hit save. It's exporting the mesh. And it'll pop up another window. So you can just select your blend file and open it, which we'll be doing here in just a second. Alright, now that we've opened up our blend file, give me just a second to get it all in screen. There we go. And this is how it's going to look in Blender. Now, I have my controls set to be very similar to 3ds Max, which is the other program we're going to be using. Scrolling, you can see there's the earrings on the model. Now, the model is only here for reference purposes. We don't need to worry about selecting or modifying the body in any way. All we're going to be worried about is the earrings themselves. If you'll notice over here on the right hand side, this is the scene and everything like that. The very bottom, S4 Studio underscore mesh underscore 1, that is the earring mesh. Now, a couple of things we're going to notice here. Go over to the Scene tab, scroll down, and you'll see S4 Studio CAS Tools, Type and Cut. This type is a geom, it's a drop down box. Geom or none are the only two options in there you want. Geom is what it's going to be, and you'll see cut is going to be 0000. These are the default settings for this type of mesh. Alright, and then we're also going to go over here to the little triangle on this little bar here, little upside down triangle. And you'll look down here where it says vertex groups, you'll see that there are 2 listed. I'm going to go down on the bottom just above the animation pane. You see this little circle? Click that. Go to solid. And this little pane here, mine's usually this little plus thing right here. You just grab it and pull it out. I'm not sure how yours is set up, but usually pressing N will make that pop up if it's not there already. And since we're in object mode, we can't see the vertex weights, but hover your cursor in the 3D pane and hit Tab. That'll switch to edit mode. Now you'll see on this pane, I want to go ahead and just click Show Weights. Now we'll zoom in. Now you see that it's all blue? That's because we have the B_CAS_R_breast. That means that none of these vertexes have this weight. Just go ahead and click on B head, and you see how it turned red? That's saying that all these vertexes are weighted with the B head vertex group. And we're not going to worry about doing anything with that right now. We're just going to go ahead and click File, Export, FBX. We're going to be doing that to edit the mesh in another 3D editor. Since there's nothing in my folder, it auto-populates the name meshtutorial.fbx. Hit export, and there you go. And I'll be back in a second to bring you in 3ds Max. Alright, here we are in 3ds Max. I've got 3ds Max 2015, so your version may be a little bit different. What we're going to do is go over here to the top box and select Import. Let me go to my folder. Got Mesh Tutorial FBX. Open that up. Now here's the import box where I have to keep note of your file units, system units, axis direction up here in the top box. Keep note of that, because right now my file units are in centimeters, but my system units are in inches. Like I said, maybe even open up a notepad and jot that down real quick. Alright, include file content, add and update animation. It's a drop down box. You can either add or update animation. I usually just keep add and update animation checked. Alright, going down the list, you'll see another little box that says animation. You want to make sure you have that box checked. And then scrolling down, you want to have the units automatic checked, because it's going to have a scale factor of shrinking it down from inches to centimeters, or however it converts it, but automatic should be checked. Okay, and we'll just click OK. Give it a second to import everything. Now, I've got my Scene Explorer right here. This is all the mesh parts and the bones and everything like that. It's everything. I'm just gonna shrink the rig, unselect everything, what I usually do is I just make the earring mesh visible. Get that out of the way. Hit Z to zoom in. And there's our mesh. There's our earrings. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple camphor box. I usually use the keyboard entry. Yeah, it looks fine. Hit create. And see how big it is? It's pretty darn big. But that's okay. Don't need to worry about that. Hit R for scale. I'm going to go over here in the 3D pane and I'm going to shrink it down until it's about the same size as the earrings that are already there. You can hit W to switch to the move tool. And then just move it so it's about where the other earring is. And see how it's just a camphor box? I'm gonna hit right click, convert to editable poly. Then I'm going to add a modifier. Pretty close to the bottom. It's unwrap UVW. By the way, this is ignore back facing and this is by angle. Just uncheck those. And I usually use the element selection. Open the UV editor. Now I've already created a couple of textures for this, so I'm going to go up here to the right corner and pick texture. I'm going to check a bitmap. Okay. Give it a second to load. And for the image to show up properly, uncheck a custom bitmap size in your unwrap options. It takes a little bit to set. Then click OK. Alright, now that we've got our UVW window open, have it select by element, polygon, okay. Let me shrink this window so you can see what's going on behind there. Okay. Now all of this is going to be the middle ring, and then this is the top and bottom. If you hold shift, that will keep it one direction, and if you hit control, it will do uniform. We're making it really small. Hit Z to zoom in. And if you'll notice my texture, it is a dice. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this, and we're just gonna put it over top of that and stretch it out so that it covers that. Now if you'll notice my texture, the only top right corner, that is set aside for earrings. If you make it any bigger than that, your texture, it's going to bleed into other parts. Like, say, it'll blend into your hair, because I know the hair is set up in this general area. I know that bracelets and things are in another selection right around this area. But if it's any bigger than this little tiny corner, it will bleed into other parts. Alright, so let's grab the top and bottom. Hold control to uniform scale it down. Then we'll just make sure that it is all in there. And I notice that some of it isn't quite right. We'll just have to adjust as necessary. So we scroll in, you see where my seam is. Unselect by group. We're just going to grab these three guys and shift them over just a little bit. Same thing with these guys. Now with this being the edge of the texture, I'm going to hold shift and just shift it over so that's more covered. There we go. Shift this back over a little bit. And then we'll just keep doing that so that we see where our seam or our edge of our cube is going to be. Alright. Now since this material isn't set up in the viewport, you can't exactly see what I'm doing. Give me just a second and I will take care of that. Hit M for materials. Notice this pops up. Just gonna go ahead and hit standard. What we do is click this button right here. It says Arch and Design. Just click that, which will change the material type. Click standard. Okay. Changes the type. Click this little box right here, or go down here to maps. I usually just click that. Bitmap. Okay. And we're going to use that same texture we just chose for that. Open. And then underneath the spheres, you'll see this little circle with an arrow to a cube. Click that and it'll assign that texture to our cube. on the right hand side above the word bitmap, you'll see a go to parent next to the highlighted square, go to parent. Then on the other side, show shaded material in viewport. Alright, now we can close that, and we'll minimize the UVW to get it out of the way. And I'm going to turn this viewport to show the texture. And just hit F3 and change it to shaded. Using the Alt key and your middle mouse button, you can rotate around and it doesn't look too great in this view, but let's see, doesn't look like that's gonna render anything. Nope, doesn't look like it rendered anything. Huh. I can close that, probably because of the lighting. But I promise you this doesn't look this bad in the actual game. We can actually change the texture if we wanted to. I'm going to use this one. And it still looks kind of bad, but it's actually okay. Don't worry about it. It looks fine in the game. Go ahead and uncheck unwrap. And by using the Z key, that will zoom in to your mesh. I usually just use the 3D view as verification that I've got it in the right place. I use the orthographic views for editing. Zoom it out. Now if you notice that there's a red crosshair sitting at the bottom of the cube, I actually want to set the pivot point to the middle. So we go over here to the hierarchy panel, effect pivot only, center to object, and then uncheck that. Go back over here to our modify tab, and then convert to editable poly again. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to rotate it. Up here on the top, you'll see the angle snap tool. Up on the top bar, right about in the middle, it's the angle snap tool. I use that to make sure I get an exact angle of 45 degrees. And that was on the front. Now we go to the left view. Do it again. Alright. So now we see that we have this cube. We're going to go ahead and scale it up a little bit. Now using the 3D view, if you put your cursor right in the middle of the scale tool or the scale gizmo, it will uniform scale it in the entire scene. But if you're in one of these orthographic, it will only do it on that plane. Like this top left corner one I have that as my front viewport. If I do the same thing, it'll only do it one direction. See how this middle part's highlighted? That'll do uniform. The outside part will do that plane. You'll notice the difference down here in the 3D view when I hover over the tool. See how it's changing from the inside to one side? Okay. And continuing on. Since we've mapped it and we've made it about the size that we want, got to get it into the proper position where I'm going to have it sitting right over top of that loop, I guess you could call it. Okay? And yes, there are 2 earrings, so yes, we will be making a duplicate. So what we're going to do is up on the top bar, hit the mirror tab. That way it'll make a mirror of our current cube. Just go ahead and hit that. I'm going to do it on the X value with a copy. And then click OK. Then drag it over to the other earring. Hit Z to make sure that it's in the proper placement. Now you see how I've got 2 cubes sitting over top of my other mesh. Alright, I'm going to leave it alone. Click the earring mesh. Hit Alt and Q to make it by itself. And we're going to add a modifier, Edit Poly. What that'll do is add an Edit Poly modifier on top of your current skin and editable poly. So we're going to go ahead and select Element, which is the cube shape. And you notice how that only selected one pane? That's probably because the mesh itself is not welded together. So that's okay. Don't need to worry about that. We'll just go ahead and highlight all of it. Oops. Up here is the selection type. Is select by center. And since we're editing the poly, we're going to delete those. And you'll see how that got rid of them. Alright. Now, what we're going to do is unhide those. Oh, where are my layers? There's my layers. It's not exactly what we wanted, but close enough. We're going to filter by objects only and display hidden objects. Okay, we're going to go ahead and unhide those 2 camphor boxes. Okay, since we've got the mesh for the earrings, just the earring heads still selected. And we've got edit poly still on. Scrolling down here to attach. Just click on that and don't modify the materials. Okay, and we're going to do it again with the other one. Don't modify materials. Okay, now those are attached to the mesh. Now this, and what we're going to do is just going to drag the skin modifier above the edit poly, or drag the edit poly below the skin. I usually just grab the skin and bring it to the top. And now that we brought our skin to the top, we are going to just export it as is. So we're going to go ahead and select export selected. That's all we want, export selected. We're going to do it Autodesk FBX. Rename that, well, not rename it, but choose a different name. I usually do 3ds underscore exp. That's just to identify it as exported from 3ds Max. And then hit save. Then pop up this export box. I want to make sure that you open up the Embed Media tab and uncheck Embed Media. And remember our unit conversion from earlier, how it went from centimeters to inches. This time we're going to uncheck the automatic box and choose centimeters. Make sure that your axis is in the proper direction if you didn't notice it from earlier. And we got to make sure that we have the type of binary. And I'm going to choose FBX 2013 as my version. There are other versions available. I choose 13. And then OK. And that exported this mesh. And we'll be back in a moment, back into Blender. Alright, here we are, back in Blender. First thing we're going to do is go to File and Import Autodesk FBX. Now you see I've got two FBXs in here. Here's my first one. Now I'm going to grab the 3ds exp one that I just created. Select that one, import FBX. And there's my new mesh. And if you look over here on the right hand side in my scene graph, it created S4 Studio underscore mesh underscore 1.001. First thing I want to do is go to the cube shape. Make sure I select that one to see how the name populates in here. I'm actually just going to change the name, delete the .001, and that'll basically just reverse the two objects. Go back over to the original earring mesh, which is now named .001, and remember your vertex groups, going over here to the upside down triangle, look at your vertex groups again, click back onto the new mesh and click the plus sign next to the vertex groups because there are none in there right now. Click plus sign. Double click the word group to rename it. This needs to be named B underscore underscore capital H head underscore underscore, and then click off. And just for verification, see how it is here? B underscore underscore capital head underscore underscore. Now, the original mesh had an additional bone reference, but since none of the vertexes were weighted with that bone, we don't need to worry about it. We don't need to add it. And we also need to hover our mouse in the 3D view, hit tab to go onto edit mode. Now you'll see down here underneath the vertex groups box, assign, remove, select, and deselect. You have to assign it. And in our panel on the right hand side, hit show weights. Now they're all selected. If we see how they're not assigned. Okay, undid to show you that. Want to select all of them. And this little box right here is basically like ignoring back facing. You uncheck that, select all of them, and assign. Now they're all red. And then we go back over to our scene tab. If you go back to the original mesh, you see how it's geom 0000. The new mesh, it's set as none. We want to change that to geom and add in 0000. Now one more thing, we want to delete the original mesh. We'll hover over your 3D view, hit either X or delete. They both do the same thing. Select OK. Now, one more thing before I forget. Go into edit mode. We want to view it with the texture. See how it's all gray? Because we did not add a texture. And that's okay. Sometimes it does have an issue where the normals are reversed. And if you'll see right here where it says normals, you click that, you can see normals pointing in shrink them down. You'll notice on the right cube you can't see any normals because they're all facing inward. I'm going to go ahead and select this. I want to make sure that we select it all. And remember to select the whole thing. And over here on the right, left side, you want to look at shading and UVWs. You can recalculate. You'll see how all those normals got flipped. But it didn't do all of them. Give me a second to fix that. Select all of it, Control and the numpad plus. There we go. And I'll recalculate. There we go. That looks better. And you can do it for the entire mesh. Do that one more time, recalculate. And you gotta remember to uncheck that to select everything. That way all your normals are in the proper direction. Go ahead, unselect the normals. Alright. Now this time what we're going to do is hit File, Save As. I'm going to change the name. I'm going to add underscore caps LOD0. Save as Blender file. And that's for LOD0. Now, in order to do the other LODs, level of definition, I'm assuming that's what the acronym stands for, I'm going to go to the wrench tool and add a modifier. We are going to the generate column and hit decimate. I'm going to change the ratio to, I'm going to say 0.8. And apply. And up here you'll see modifiers cannot be applied in edit mode. So we have to hit tab to get out. Now apply. And go back in to see how much it reduced the poly count. looks fine to me. Now we're going to go ahead, hit File, Save As, LOD1. Save. And we're going to do that again. Exact same thing. Decimate. 0.8. Get out of edit mode to apply. Back into edit mode to see how it reduced the poly count. And one more time. File, save as, LOD2. That's right, there's 4 LODs, so we got to do it one final time. 0.8. Apply. File. Save as. LOD3. Save. Alright. That's that for Blender. And I'll be back in with the Sims 4 Studio Editor. Alright, and here we are back in the Sims 4 Studio Editor on LOD0. Import 3D Mesh. And remember, we renamed them. We hit LOD0. Open that up. And of course the texture is going to look funny, so we'll just go ahead and import our texture. The one we created before. And there we go. Now you will notice a little bit up here where the texture is crossing over onto the loop. That's because I didn't edit the original mesh UV. I only mapped the cube. That isn't very hard to do. Do it in either Blender or 3ds Max. Basically the exact same way we did it before. Now we're going to go ahead and switch over to LOD1. Import 3D Mesh. LOD1. Alright. And we're going to keep doing that until we've got all 4 LODs imported in. And that's that. And of course, just like before, we can add swatches, change the textures, however you like. And remember, hit save before closing. Your package has been saved. And it pops back to this. And I'll see you in a moment in the game. Alright, here we are, back in game. And you remember my character Anna from before. We're going to go ahead and select Accessory Earrings. Go to Formals so you can see it better. And then scroll down to where it is. And I've already gone ahead and created a couple of different ones. I've got a blue one, a green one, purple, burgundy, and my gray one. Alright, there they are. And of course, this one looks a little bit different than the one I created just a few minutes ago because I had created it previously. Alright. Select that. Going in game. And we're going to have her go out here into the hall. Alright. Pause it so we can zoom in on her. And there it is. Earrings in game attached to her head. And this has been Bruja236 for The Sims 4 Studio. Have a great day. See you next time.